So please take out the paper and then try to write down the meaning of each word or phrase, like kind of highlighted with the blue, okay? Yeah. Study occurrence and distribution determinants and control the health problem. So try to write down the meaning of each word, the meaning of each word. Okay, yeah. Think about what is the meaning of study and then occurrence and distribution, determinant and control the health problems. If we understand them, understand the meaning of these words, probably you can understand what is epidemiology. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's talk about the meaning of study. Do you think what is the study meanings?
Occurrences when we take together data.
Yes. It is kind of a way to collect the data, and then after collecting data, what are we gonna do? Collecting data and analyzing data, right? Yeah, and then make conclusions. So study means actually applying systematic and scientific method for problem solving. So in order to solve the problems, scientific like problem solving, actually, there are 5 steps usually involved: observations, questions, hypotheses, and testings. In the testing, we actually collect the data and analyzing data and make the conclusions. So that is the meaning of studies. So using these scientific approaches, actually, we address the epidemic problems, public health problems. So I will go to talk about this one more in this later part of this class today. And then occurrence. What is the occurrence means? What is the meaning of occurrence?
How often something happens?
Yes, how often something happens. So frequencies, right? So in this case, frequency of disease, right? How often disease happens or something like that. Yes, good. And distribution patterns, distributions. Distributions. It is kind of a pattern of disease occurrence, like kind of where disease occur and when, and then who disease get, these kind of things. The pattern of disease occurrence, that is the distributions. So from now, we study like kind of using scientific approaches actually study the frequency of disease and then distribution of disease, right? Distribution of disease occurrence, right? So we actually study this, and also we also study this determinant. Determinants, we already know the determinants. What is the meaning of determinant?
The cause.
Yes, cause of disease actually determinant. We talk about in the last class. Do you remember this triad? Disease transmission triad. Host. What is this? Host, agent, and factors. Yes, one factor is a factor, and then the other one is a common source, right? So agent is actually cause of disease, right? Yes, this is the cause of disease. So same meanings. Determinants is actually agent. This actually cause of disease, right? Yeah. So we also study using these approaches, actually scientific systemic approaches to identify these cause of disease, right? That is the epidemiologies. Okay. Physical, biological, social, cultural, and behavioral factors that causes a disease or influence health, right? Yeah. So actually, cause of disease are actually very, very complex. Think about the cardiovascular disease. What kind of factors cause of disease involved in this cardiovascular disease? Like kind of a heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, right? So this disease, what kind of factors might affect this cardiovascular disease, heart attacks?
Obesity.
Obesity? There is the physical, biological, social, cultural. Which one? Obesity is
Physical.
physical, yes. And what else? Genetic, what is this? Yes. What else? Smoking, what is this? Behavior factors, yes. So one disease actually caused by the many factors, as you guys mentioned, right? Yes. So this is actually determinants. So there is only one causes for the disease, for a disease. There are many factors actually involved in this kind of disease, right? So we need to know what kind of determinants for this disease, right? Yeah, so that is the epidemiology determinants. Very good. And then the last one, control the health problems. What is the meaning of this parades? Control the health problems means actually promote health and prevent disease, right? Yeah. So we briefly actually talk about what is epidemiology. So epidemiology is to identify occurrence and distribution patterns of disease and its determinants using systematic and scientific method to promote and protect health, right? Yeah. So the keyword is here, identify occurrence of disease and distribution pattern of disease. By doing this, we can identify the determinants of disease. Okay, yeah. So think about this. Do you guys remember for the our extra credit point, the Dr. Jones know the cholera? What he did to address the public health problem? What he did?
He had the water shut, like he had it closed.
Yeah, close. In order to close, what kind of evidence he collected?
He found sources that were near the water and then also one that was away.
Yes. So near the waters, there are what kind of things that he collected?
Data.
Data, especially deaths, right? Death rate, right? So occurrence of disease, right? He actually collected data about the occurrence disease, and then he also analyzed the data for distribution patterns, right? So what is the distribution pattern he found?
Oh, the lady that came from outside of the area.
Yes. So the more deaths actually found nearby the Broad Street pump, right? That is the patterns, right? Yeah. So he found the patterns and then he found the occurrence of disease and then he can find the determinants of disease, right? So we actually can promote and prevent disease, right? Yeah. Please keep in mind, think about this relationship from that examples. He tried to identify the deaths, right? And cause of disease, right? Occurrence disease, and then distribution pattern. Especially distribution patterns nearby, more deaths nearby the Broad Street pump, right? So he can actually identify the cause of disease. What is the cause of disease? Contaminated water pump, right? Yes, that is the cause of disease. So we actually promote promote health and prevent the disease using that kind of method. That is the epidemiological method, right? Yep. Okay, so let's talk about the purpose of the epidemiologies. Here's the important things. The premise underlying epidemiology is disease, illness are not randomly distributed in human populations. What does it mean by this? Not randomly distributed. I highlighted this one red and the bigger word. Why? Not randomly distributed. What does it mean by that?
There has to be a reason for the disease.
Yes, very good. There should be a reason. The reason should be cause of disease, right? If there is no cause of disease, probably disease randomly distributed, right? Yeah. But our assumption is no disease actually randomly distributed. Okay, so that is the important assumption of epidemiology. There is always cause and disease. So we try to figure out what cause and disease. What we try to figure out. Cause. Why? Why we try to figure out the cause?
You can stop the spread.
Yes, we can prevent and we can stop. That is the important purpose of epidemiologists, right? Yeah. So here is the things. The purpose of epidemiology is to identify the cause of disease and risk factors. So risk factor is a kind of a similar word with this cause of disease. Like risk factor is a variable associated with the increased risk of disease or infections. Okay, yeah. So hypertension, cardiovascular disease, which one is a risk factor? Which one is a cause of disease? Hypertension, the relationship between hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Which one is a cause of disease?
Hypertension.
Hypertensions. And cardiovascular disease are disease, right? Yeah. How about the coronavirus and respiratory disease? Which one is a risk factor? Yeah, coronavirus is a risk factors, right? Yeah. So we identify these cause of disease, and then eventually we can illuminate the risk factors, and we can reduce the increase of the disease, reduce the disease occurrence, right? Yes. So we can do prevent disease, right? Yeah. So we know that the hypertension is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. In order to eliminate the hypertensions, we probably find some solutions, right? Which is the doing exercise and many other ways, right? Yeah. So that's why we encourage people doing exercise to reduce the cardiovascular disease. Exercise, there are many benefits, right? Yeah. So exercise actually illuminate the risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Okay. Yeah. And the coronavirus spread out, preventing this coronavirus, we actually wearing mask, these kind of behaviors also prevent the disease, right? Yes. So you understand what is the purpose of epidemiologists, right? We try to identify the cause of disease and then try to illuminate this cause of disease. Eventually, we can prevent disease, right? That is the purpose of epidemiologists. Okay. So we also gathering many epidemiological data, like kind of occurrence of disease, like death rate and then incidence rate. This kind of data actually allows us to identify the pattern of public health problems by time and subgroups. These data give us many important information about how disease trends actually change it over time and something like that. Also give us many important information about which population is more likely to get those kind of disease or something like that. So these kind of epidemiological data give us many benefits. So first of all, as I mentioned, provide a clue regarding how the public health problem have been changed in the community. Did you see the pattern of the disease over time? What kind of patterns did you guys find from this data? This data is the death rate data, okay? So mortality data. What kind of pattern, public health problem patterns did you guys find? What patterns did you find?
There's diseases at the bottom of the 1900s list that have made it to the top of the 2009.
Okay, so top three, look at the top three. What is the commonality for the top three, 1900 and 2009? What is the?
We have medicine for them now.
Yes, medicine for now. So that actually dropped. And then on the other hand, nowadays, what kind of a disease actually, what kind of a disease patterns now? Heart disease, cancer, and lung disease, this kind of thing is chronic disease, right? Yeah. So those diseases nowadays, chronic disease are prevalent. But previous in the past, pneumonia, TB this kind of disease are infectious disease. So at the time, most 1900, most concern was about infectious disease. But as you guys mentioned, we developed a vaccine and many methods. So this disease actually right now is actually going down. But nowadays, chronic disease actually became top 3 for mortality rate. So can you see the some types of patterns? So mortality rate, like kind of using this kind of data, we can see the how the disease actually patterns changed over times, right? Yes, very good. And then also we can, this kind of data also allows us to identify subgroups in the population who are at risk, high risk for disease. So we are all different and different age group and different races. So these kind of things, also this kind of data allows us to, who is the higher risk for certain disease or something like that. So using this kind of so let's see this graph. Type 2 diabetes prevalence by Anthony race, age more than 30 years. What kind of things you guys find in terms of type 2 diabetes?
There's a higher prevalence in my.
Yes, probably type 2 diabetes, a higher prevalence of the minority groups like kind of Black peoples and Native American people and Pacific Islanders, right? So these races actually, Anthony is a higher type 2 diabetes than other race. So using this data, we can see if you are Black people, so if you are like kind of Native American, probably you are more like kind of cautious about the getting type 2 diabetes, and then more like kind of working on preventive activities to prevent these type 2 diabetes things, right? Yeah. So these kind of epidemiological data give us many useful information about the trend and pattern of disease. So in this class, I really focusing on the using data. Probably you guys actually have many different career paths in the future, but using data is really important nowadays. So data analysis, like kind of looking at these kind of graph data, and then you guys analyzing, interpreting these kind of things is a very important skill in terms of you moving on to your career path. PTOT, definitely using this data. They evaluate access, or evaluate the physical like kind of a disability, these kind of things, and then gathering data, and then they're gonna make the conclusions. So using data is really important. So that's why I really highlight the importance of the using data in this class. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about how to identify the cause of a disease. So we actually talk about the meaning of a study in the beginning of the class. So study is actually systemic approaches to solve the problems, right? So there are 5 steps: observation, questions, setting a hypothesis, and testing, and making conclusion. That is the study, like kind of a process and steps, right? Yeah. So first step is examine the distribution of disease in a population and observing the basic feature of each distributions in terms of place, time, and persons. So using data, you might need to understand the patterns of the somethings, basic features. So let's practice this one. So go to the blackboard. Click learning module week 4. So we have online assignment, week 4 online assignment, I actually attached a article on articles. So first page, here is the map showing the prevalence of the type 2 diabetes in Illinois. So look at this map and then try to figure out the pattern of disease. Okay? Yeah, right now. Using this data, please try to figure out the pattern of disease. What kind of patterns you guys can find? You find the pattern? Why is something is green, but why some areas are red? What kind of a relationship did you guys find?
Is it that areas with more healthcare centers have less prevalence of diabetes?
Yes, very good. You are correct. So what does it mean by this dot? Dot. Yellow dot and black dot. What is that?
The black or the healthcare yellow?
Yes, that is the kind of health promotion programs, right? Yeah. And then red is the high prevalence of the type 2 diabetes, right? And green is a lower prevalence of type 2 diabetes, right? Yeah. So what patterns? More health promotion programs areas having more these programs, lower type 2 diabetes prevalence rate. Did you find that one, right? Yes. So you guys actually find the patterns. So what does it mean by that? From this kind of finding your patterns, so what kind of lessons you guys can get from this data? What kind of things we can get from this data? Very obvious, right? More health promotion programs, lower type 2 diabetes prevalence rate, right? So that's why we need to have more health promotion programs in our community, right? In our community, as more this like kind of health promotion program, probably we can reduce the type 2 prevalence rate, diabetes prevalence rate, right? Yeah, that's the things like this. As you guys actually understand the pattern of disease, like kind of things, you can actually make some solutions, suggest some solutions, these kind of things, right? Yeah. Very good. So this is the kind of example of how you guys actually find the pattern of a disease or occurrence of these kind of things. Okay, yeah. So let's move on to this. So observation, by observing this kind of data, you guys can see the some patterns, right? Yeah. So here, look at this data and then please tell me the pattern of disease, lung cancer. What kind of patterns did you guys find in terms of this lung cancer? What kind of pattern did you guys find in terms of lung cancer?
RBs and more control.
Okay,
There's more rates.
okay.
of lung cancer.
So which area is a higher lung cancer rate? Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, like Mississippi, these areas, right? These are higher lung cancer areas, right? Yeah. You guys can see the patterns, right? Yeah. So if you guys see these patterns, you can make some questions. Why? Why these areas are higher lung cancer rate? You guys can make question like this, right? Can you answer or like kind of something to make some association? So we learn about the always there is a cause and disease, right? Cause and disease, that is the epidemiology. You are the epidemiologist now. So this area is like kind of a higher lung cancer rate right now. So probably you might need to figure out some cause, right? What kind of a cause is kind of related to this area?
I would look and see the rates of maybe smoking.
Very good. So probably the smoking is the one of the big factors connecting this cancer, right? So let's look at the smoking rate in these areas. That is the smoking rate. See the pattern? How the patterns similar each other. So I show you this. This one is a lung cancer rate. This one is a smoking rate. How about the patterns? Pattern similars, right? So you guys actually make the questions and then you guys can set up the like kind of a association, like kind of a hypothesis, right? Your hypothesis would be smoking causes lung cancer, right? That is your hypothesis. So now by observing data and then we making question and then we can set up the hypothesis, right? Yeah, hypothesis is smoking causes lung cancers, right? Yeah, using this data like this. So so here is the important thing. Hypothesis, just a hypothesis. There is a causal relationship or not until hypothesis. There is a causal relationship or not. In this point, we can say your hypothesis is smoking causes this lung cancer. But hypothesis is a hypothesis. What is the meaning of a hypothesis? Hypothesis already proven or not? Not proven. So smoking causes this lung cancer is not fact yet. Does it make sense? So in order to make the fact, what do we need to do? Test. So you guys mentioned the experiment, these kind of things, right? Yeah, we need to do test. So test involving collecting data, analyzing data, and then make the conclusions. So data support your hypothesis. We can say smoking causes these lung cancers. Does it make sense? So now hypothesis, the fact is not yet. Okay, yeah, so please keep in mind this. So we actually talk about some way to test this hypothesis, okay? So the next step, we do observation question, setting up the hypothesis. We're gonna now test and then conclusion. I'm going to talk about some way to test this hypothesis, okay? Yeah. First ones, so there are three ways to test this hypothesis, like kind of a case control study, cohort study, and randomized control trials. So let me briefly explain each type of study design. Case control study. So case control studies compare patients who already have a disease or outcome interest with the patients who do not have the disease. So look back, retrospectively to compare how frequently the exposed risk factor is present, each group to determine the relationship between risk factor and disease. Probably you cannot understand, right? Yeah. So let me explain with this one. So case control study, we actually look at the relationship now. What is the cause of disease? Smoking, and the disease is lung cancer, right? So case control study. So we are now in 2022, okay? So we're gonna recruit people who have disease, which means we recruit the lung cancer, lung cancer patients, okay? Yeah. And then we're gonna ask their behavior in 2000 years in the past. Especially we're gonna ask about the risk factor, which is the smoking, okay? And then, so we two groups, cancer group, non-cancer group, and asking about their smoking history in the past. Probably this group has more heavy smoker in the past, right? And then non-cancer group was not smoker, right? So that's why we can make the conclusions. Oh, because these groups are more smoking in the past, so that's why they got lung cancer. That is the case control study. Does it make sense? So we recruit the patients having disease now and then ask about their past behavior. But these study designs kind of have some issues. Did you guys remember what did you guys do 1 month before today? What did you guys do exact the same day last year? What did you do? What did you do? You say, I don't know. But 2022, you ask, what did you do in 2000 years? Did you smoke a lot? Probably answer might not be accurate because of memory bias. So one of the weaknesses of this case control study is memory bias. Okay. So these study designs like kind of has some issues. So every study design has some issues. Like kind of this ones has some memory issues, so memory bias. Okay, yeah. And then cohort study is kind of an opposite study design. So we start with recruiting people's smoker or lung cancer. Opposite. We recruit the people's opposite means we recruit the people's who smokers, risk factors, right? So we actually cohort studies to compare two selected groups is actually having risk factors like smoking and non-smoker, and then we actually look at the monitor their behaviors and then monitor for longer time, and then we're gonna see the outcome of the disease in the futures. That is the cohort study design. Prospectively monitor their behavior and then see the outcomes in the futures. So like this. We recruit the people here, 2022, smoker and non-smoker, and then we're gonna monitor their behavior over time, and then after 10 years later, and then we're gonna see they have a more lung cancer or not, right? These groups are more likely to have a lung cancer in the futures, right? Yeah. Also, this study design has some problems, issues. What kind of issue might have?
They can stop smoking.
Yes, these people can stop smoking, and or these people like change their behaviors, right? Some people drop out the studies, like kind of in the middle of the study, like time period. So like this, yeah, it's really hard to monitor their behaviors, right? Yes, very good. And then randomized controlled trials, RCT. So this one is, we actually recruit people having same conditions. So you probably hear about the randomized controlled trials. We recruit the people having same condition. All people recruited have same conditions. And then they are randomly allocated two different groups, like kind of smoking group and non-smoking group, and then follow over time and then see the outcomes or something like that. So this is the randomized controlled trials. So recruit people having same condition, and then we're gonna allocate these people into two different groups: treatment smoking group and control group, non-smoking groups. And then we actually see the result after that. So same conditions, and then they kind of see the different like kind of treatment, smoking, non-smoking, and then follow and see the outcomes. And then like kind of make the conclusions. So smoking causes lung cancers or not, like this. Yeah. But this one is also kind of have some issues. One of the issues for this ICT design is there is some ethical issues. For the study, can we ask them people to smoke forcibly? We cannot do that. Yeah, so that's why this kind of study is very, very limited. So this kind of studies like kind of very, very limited, like kind of things that we can do, like kind of smoking, or like some like kind of sexual related like kind of studies, like using this study, we cannot do that actually due to some ethical issues. So using this kind of testing way, we can make the conclusions, like kind of risk factors can causes the disease like this. Okay, yeah. So we talk about the epidemiology today. So we actually have a